SwissTrader, finanzielle Freiheit durch Daytrading. Losing time on fading fast. Welcome to the SwissTrader's Money Show. Today I will tell you about my strategy and how it works. And first see my channel. It's the SwissTrader's Money and Trading Show, and the goal is to get financial freedom, and subscribe to my channel that you are informed always. And we have no investment advice at all. Now, here, this is a chart, in a 1 minute chart, where I use the indicators, and I tell you which indicators I use. This is the Ranco Chart. The Ranco Chart is a time-independent indicator which shows support and resistances, and as it is time-independent, one box represents 100 pips or one point. Here it's DAX, German DAX. You can't directly compare it with the time-dependent chart, but the last movement here, for example, this is this one. It's not written at the same time. You have some displacements. Then you hear these lines and this line, this and this. This is the opening range. It's the first hour from 8 to 9 depicted with lines. It's the first hourly chart, or the first bar from 8 to 9. It's just a line, and it's this distance is called the stretch, and it is projected above and below. And as you see, mostly the price will move in this range. It's not very often that the price leaves this range. If it leaves, you know, oh, you have extraordinary movements. And here you have the lower line of the opening range, and this is usually a very strong support or a very strong resistance. Depending, when you come here, it's a resistance. When you come from here, it's a support. You see, it's just always the case. And I use the same for Dow Jones, or for the US indices. It works well. And here are another indicator, the automatic trend lines. It just draws trend lines from these extreme points. Then I have the VWAP here. This is the Swiss simple VWAP. You find it on MQL5 for free. Then we have another indicator. It's the important lines indicator here, with the low H1, high H1, the last hour depicted here. And you have pre-day close, you have pre-day low, you have pre-day high. Pre-day high, and the pivot points. Yes, this is the pivot. This is S1, R1 and so on, R2, S2, S3, these supports or these resistances. Yes, and furthermore we have some moving averages which are important. Here is the EMA 200 with this turquoise colored line. We have the maximum and the minimum. Here we have the AMA 89 with the minimum and maximum, and here it's the moving average 1350 with minimum and maximum. This is the 89 in M15. Furthermore, we have the supply and demand indicator. I just show you which indicators these are, and here the Ranco, as I explained already, the Ranco is time independent. It just redrawn when there is a new movement of 1 point of the DAX. It's 100 pips, and you see very well where there are support and resistances, and you see some waves, for example Wolf waves or Elliott waves. Such wave structures you see here very well. Now I show you how these indicators. I just have another one. It's the it's a Bollinger Band here. Here's the middle line. It's a Bollinger Band with EMA instead of SMA. Here it's the standard deviation of 2 plus, and here is the standard deviation of 2 minus. It's not so important. I don't use it often, but I nevertheless have it in the chart to see if there is a very strong decline or move up. And here are the indicators. Here again, it's quite a lot. This is the Swiss VWAP symbol, the VWAP zigzag. I have a zigzag 2. This zigzag color, it's a free indicator from MQL5. It shows you the wave structure. And these moving averages I explained already, and the important lines, Swiss important lines, BB AMR, this is the AMR, the Bollinger Band with EMAs instead of S simple moving averages. Here's to the parabolic SI. Parabolic SI is sometimes good for holding, hold positions, and yes, the super trend is the super trend JR from Jason Robinson. This super trend, this is this one. Either green when it comes up or red when it comes down. Here you see, here it's green, and it's always green, although the price goes under the super trend indicator. All these indicators work together, and you have to watch many of them, and this, you can choose if to sell or to buy by a by confluence, if you have many of these indicators or these hints from these indicators. For example, here we are just long. I would not go short if it is not, does not cross down to the super trend. We have here still the parabolic SAR is still long too. We have an uptrend here, so we don't go short here because we have not many indicators showing that you should already go short. Here you have a supply zone. That means it might go short, but you have to have many hints together to decide if you go short. For example, waiting for a short signal in the super trend, waiting for a parabolic short up here, or you wait for crossing the EMA 20. There are many things you have to also ask to yourself before you get a short here. Here in the Ranco, you don't have a downtrend yet. You have to have a higher low for a downtrend. You don't just have it here, so you don't go short at this position. Then we look at the whole strategy. First, most important, psychology, and there is my credo. Passion brings roses, but that's only valid for short trades. Therefore, sometimes I have to wait very long if I have a short trade to get successful, but it's not good for long trades. Long trades where we have a well-defined stop loss. I do it on the below the previous M15 bar, and farther, if you have an extraordinary big win, you should realize it and make some pause. Always when you have two big wins, the risk that you risk too much is big, and you have to know what greed is. Don't get too greedy. You have not to want to make too much money. And what is important too, it's when you are trading or scalping, you need absolute concentration. I tried to explain some the trading to my friends, and it's just impossible if you trade with real money and you want to explain to somebody. It's too risky. If you explain something, you have to do it in a demo account. And also, if you are emotionally hit by something you don't should trade. Emotions are very bad to trade because you are not concentrated. You have also be careful to not trade your account. For example, if you have a win of $96 and you wanted to make out of this 96, you want to make 100, a win of 100. That's not good. Don't use force to get some winning. It is all too very not advisable to define your risk by your previous win. If you have a big win, don't raise your risk, and you don't want to make a win of $5,000 a day. Look for a realistic win you can cope with. It's about, let's say, 65, a minimal win 65 per day. That's enough. And think in months. When you have a win of $100 per day, you have one of 2,200 per month. Think in months. Think in months. Think in a long-term manner. And greed and fear, you could limit greed if you tell you I restrict my maximal win, for example, $300. If you have 300, you leave. Make pauses, especially if you have a very big win, because it's always very dangerous if you have a big win that you lose everything afterwards. And therefore you might finish trading if you have an extraordinary win. And FOMO, fear of missing opportunities. Don't get angry about a win you didn't make, or you didn't trade a nice move. The money management. I have a ground level of $2,000, and after I have 3,000 or 4,000, I pay out. Don't make a heap of $20,000, because there is the danger that you at some day lose everything. I experienced this on 19th of July. I had about 20,000 on the account. It was only money by trading, and I lost about 16,000 in one day. Yes, and you have to have yes, if you have a lot of money, you risk more. If you have a lot of money on your account, you risk more automatically. Otherwise, you have to have enough money that some unexpected movements can be traded. And yes, yes, my equity curve looked like this before 19th of July. Afterwards it went back, pom, and now it's coming back. Risk management, you have to be very well prepared every morning, because you can't trade a movement you can't mentally understand. And this Ranco chart is very good. Then charts. The Ranco chart is very good. Here you see the Ranco. It shows you the fractal movements, the movements which, for example, you see in Elliott waves. This movement 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This impulsive wave, the impulsive wave up, and here down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see this very well in the Ranco, and also such ABCs in a it's a bit wrong. I meant ABC in a downtrend. You see these two. You don't, if you abruptly have such a pattern, don't panic. It's normal that you have corrective waves like that. And the indicators I explained already. These are the indicators, and the Holy Grail indicator, you find it on M1252. I have here the EMA 89, and here a very small EMA, I think it's the 8 and you just can visualize if you are here, for example, you are very, in the long term you are very short, but in the short term you are in an uptrend. It's here the 89 here the 89 EMA, and here is the 89 EMA in M15. And yes, you might, if you want to depict the trade in trading view before you start, that you can look at the risk-reward ratio. I don't do that always, only seldom. Then I use IC Markets and AxiTrader as brokers. They are both Australians, and important is that they have 0.1 contracts and very small spreads. For example, especially IC Markets has this index. AxiTrader doesn't have this 0.1 contract. No, it has, but it has a spread of 3 in the future. I look for the future at AxiTrader. Then hardware, Ultra UHD screen is very good with big resolution. You need good hardware if you want to stream or film yourself when you are trading. Otherwise, it's not so important. And the asset, I'm specialized on DAX, Dow, and with 500. It's good when you specialize on an asset. And preparation, do it every morning. We have the timing. It's important that you know that DAX, for example, starts at 9:00 and there are news at 2:30 and the US start is at 3:30 and at 5:30 it's close of the cash, German cash, and 10 o'clock in the evening it's the end of the futures. And cycles, they are important. You often see trend changes only to half and whole hours. The first day in the month is very often long because there are capital inflows. The turnaround Tuesday, it's not always the case, and the uprise on Friday, it was not so last Friday. It's not always the case, and the intraday cycles, for example, at 10 o'clock, 11:30, you very often get trend change at these times. And price action, you have to know Elliott waves, Wolf waves, the parabolic flattening of a trend, and patterns like shoulder, head, shoulder, inverse shoulder, head, shoulder, double buttons, double tops, and so. And you have to be aware of hundredths and thousandths. These figures are very important because there are many other derivatives attached to these indices, and they are very important. And pre-day lows, they are never easily crossed, and they are very often rebounded. Gaps are very important. If you have a down gap, it mostly goes further down, and you don't always have a gap close. If you have an up gap, gap close can go some months. Then the intermarket correlations. DAX, for example, correlates very much with the Dow Jones and is inversely correlated to the DXY, the US dollar index. And pyramiding, I just enter like that. First very small, and when I see that it runs in the right direction, I get fat, I get one contract or two contract, and so on. I have no exact signals. Yes. And I have I usually note the errors, and what about should you hear to other people. It's sometimes good not to hear too much before you trade, because you can have a mental poisoning. Some analysts says the main variant is down, and afterwards it goes up, and you always think, oh, it must go down, and you are wrong. You should start trading with no idea of direction. Trade what you see. Yes, that's what I wanted to tell you in English. If you are English, please subscribe to my channel and you will be informed very well and you will succeed. Finally, you will be financially independent. Goodbye with Swiss Trader.